In the video discussing denominations, there was this exchange. Tabernacle also has its own ordinances, which have been formed over the years as a set of guidelines which the church follows. An example of this would be alcohol. To be a leader of the church, for example, a teacher, staff member, deacon, choir member, you must agree to adhere to total abstinence from alcohol. Is this scriptural? We'll look at that next on this 315 Faith Extra. So, you've just been asked if it is scriptural for a church to require leaders to practice abstinence from drinking alcohol. An act, by the way, which is not strictly forbidden in Scripture. What is your answer to this? Yes or no? Welcome to Apologetics and Difficult Discussions. What is your answer, yes or no? Don't answer yes or no to that. The reason being, it's not a yes or no question. Is what scriptural? Drinking alcohol or a church telling you not to? This is the very type of question that led to the creation of this video series. We wanted to introduce a subsection of the basics and begin building a biblical foundation of apologetic evangelism. What good is having a debate or an argument if it's not leading to the gospel, if it's not opening someone's eyes, lifting the veil, and providing them with truth, or making the truth known and visible? Can we address the difficult questions in situations from a biblical worldview? We have these conversations all the time, either on the drive home from church or around the dinner table. A lot of them are around the dinner table. But do we have them? Can we have them from a biblical point of view, from a knowledgeable point of view? And can we have them when it really matters, say in public, or while we're witnessing to somebody? Some of this stuff isn't all that clear cut and requires a bit of thought. This question that we've just posed is one where you have to defend the position from a Christian worldview. We as believers have to answer this sort of stuff. The I think and the way I see it, it's not going to cut it. We need to have developed the way we approach these sort of topics ahead of time. And the only way to do that is to run through topics, and to, especially the popular topics, alcohol. It's right there in the mix. Okay, let's look at the question again. Is it scriptural for a church to require leaders, to ask leaders to abstain from drinking alcohol? It would be true that the Bible does not say you cannot drink alcohol. You will not find that verse in the Bible. However, it does go above and beyond to tell us how unwise and foolish it is to dance that thin line of responsibility or responsible use. Another point is the responsibility believers hold to those who look to them as an example. So from these 2 points of view, what sort of response could we have? Knowing what we know, how would we reply? Well, let me give it a shot. The Bible doesn't strictly forbid us to use alcohol, but Scripture does warn us against foolish risks and the dangers of drinking. It goes above and beyond, telling us how foolish it is to drink and how dangerous it is to drink, and how many stories are there in the Bible where people were drunk and horrible, awful things happened. The Bible also, though, explicitly requires us to be good stewards of those under our discipleship, or those in which we influence. Any leader in the church would be definitely underneath that stewardship requirement. If a church feels the best method for providing stewardship and the well-being of its discipleship is to refrain from alcohol, it seems well within reason for it to do so. The other point of note here is that in no way is the church saying that you're out of fellowship for drinking alcohol. They're not telling you you can't. They're simply establishing a standard of living and behavior for their leaders. by holding such a position, you agree to that. If that's a deal breaker, if you don't want to follow that standard, that is totally fine. You simply remove yourself from such a leadership position. Now, that is one way of looking at the issue. I'm sure there are others who could lay it out more eloquently, more articulate. But in a nutshell, I think that hits the major points broadly. See how different that is from, they can't do that. It's not in the Bible. Well, that's right. It's not in the Bible. Well, wait, what's not in the Bible? Are you strictly just talking about alcohol? Is it in the Bible that the church isn't responsible for the congregants? Isn't how many verses are in the Bible? How many teachings are in the Bible about how to handle oneself as a disciple and as a leader? Yeah, it's not in the Bible is not a good response for that. Another one would be the wishy-washy, wet washcloth approach, where it's, oh no, I don't know. You're right. They are being too strict. Too often we compromise and we wilt under pressure when asked or confronted about some decision the church has made, or some decision Christianity has made, a doctrine in Christianity. We see that all the time now. Just being a Christian means that you, in some cases, are a bigot or full of hate. That's not true. It's actually the exact opposite. But an educated response is what you're going to get. There's also the very dangerous doubling down when you're not really sure, you don't even know. Oh, yes, it is in there. Drinking is wrong and you know it. I grew up with a lot of those responses from various people, and I had a lot of those responses early on in my faith. I didn't know what I was talking about, so I went with what I felt. I went with how I felt or what my opinion might be. But my opinion was not based off Scripture. My opinion was not based off any sort of biblical knowledge. And that didn't do anybody any good, especially me. For the record, I agree with the church establishing rules and ordinances with the intention of reinforcing biblical teaching. In this case, alcohol places the members at unnecessary risk. You'll hear the argument that, well, I don't get drunk, or I can handle my alcohol, it's not a problem. That very well may be true. You may very well be able to use responsibly. But those under your discipleship, those under your influence, those who look to you, they may not be. They may not be able to stop or to use moderately. I believe this falls very much under that don't cause a brother to stumble area. But Eric, what about other cultures? Or, hey, my church says it's okay. Are you saying that we're wrong? Well, we're not talking about your or some other church. We're talking about Tabernacle Baptist Church in Cartersville, Georgia. We are not talking about other cultures, other parts of the country, or other countries. We're focusing on a Southern Baptist community of believers. If I recall correctly, Timothy went to rather extreme measures to not put a barrier between him and sharing the gospel with other people. Timothy didn't want anything clouding the water when ministering and witnessing. But hold on. What if we were in other cultures? Or what if we were somewhere else? If we were addressing, I don't know, working class factory workers in Boston, if we were worshiping and witnessing to Hispanic ranchers in Arizona, our message would not change. The gospel would not change. However, our approach most definitely would. This is not called catering to the crowd. This is called contextualization. Contextualization refers to the educational process of relating the curriculum to a particular setting, situation, or area of application to make the competencies relevant, meaningful, and useful to all learners. Basically, what does contextualization mean? It means you put that message in a package and in a form, and you deliver it in a way that it can be understood. You talk to someone in Cartersville, Georgia, it is completely different to talking to someone in Washington State, in Africa, in Italy, in South America. Notice we didn't say compromise. The message cannot and should never be altered. Just the way it is packaged, the way it's delivered, sometimes can be changed, only for the reason of making it easier to understand for different people. The bottom line here, as it always should be, is the gospel, leading people to Christ. When things cloud that message, when things make it more difficult, they need to be cleared away or they need to be adjusted. In the case of many churches, Tabernacle being one of them, alcohol just too often clouds things up. It gets in the way. So it was cleared away. It was removed from the equation to make smooth the path for sharing the gospel.